Welcome to the Leadership Window podcast with Dr. Patrick Jinks. Each week, through a social sector lens, Patrick interviews leaders and experts and puts us in touch with trends and tips for leading effectively. Patrick is a board-certified executive coach, a member of the Forbes Coaches Council, a best-selling author, award-winning photographer, and a professional speaker. And now, here's Dr. Patrick Jinks.
And it's episode 154 of the Leadership Window. We're back a little early this week because we just had lightning in a bottle or the planets aligned or something. Doug Paul is our guest today, and I'm really excited about this one because I nerd out on this stuff, and obviously he does too and has for quite some time. This episode today, I think, is just really at the heart of the matter for so many, really, if not all, organizations. We are talking today more specifically about nonprofit organizations. And this is a good chance to kind of bring everyone up to speed on what this podcast is. Obviously, it's called the Leadership Window, so it's about leadership. And it's about leadership really in any sector. Leadership is leadership. We've defined it ad nauseum, and we'll do more down the road. But we say that it's leadership through a social sector lens. And a big part of that is because of my background in the nonprofit sector and my mission bent. But so many of these concepts and maybe most of our episodes really cross sectors. Today is a little bit different, and I'll sort of tip that off. I don't want to steal any of Doug's thunder, but some of you may have heard of EOS, popularized in the book Traction, Entrepreneurial Operating System. And if you've heard of that, or I've had some nonprofit clients who have talked about it and even implemented it. I don't know how they're doing on it. What Doug found is that there are some nuances to being a nonprofit organization that don't quite align with that same EOS. So he and his team have created the Impact Operating System, which is similar in concept, but more customized and appropriate and relevant to the unique culture and accountabilities that nonprofit organizations have. So Doug is the CEO of Impact Co., and he's the author of the best-selling book, Built for Impact. I'm going to pause right there because I just read it. And I'll recommend books, especially people that come on the show. I try to read the books, if not scan them. This is one I really want to hold up and highlight as one of my favorites that we've ever had highlighted by our guests on this program in the 5 years we've been on. It's called Built for Impact, and it is all about the Impact Operating System. This is not just a theoretical, hey, here's our take on impact kind of book. It's not hard to read. It shouldn't take you long to read, but it is full of practical, actual toolkits, applicable things, not just theory and philosophy. I really did like this. And we're going to talk about a good bit of it today. But I just want to right now, before we get to the end of the show, go get that book, Built for Impact. If you're a nonprofit leader, if you're anywhere in the nonprofit management, whether you're the CEO or not, this is really, you need this. Trust me on that. Over the last 2 decades, he has worked with more than 1,300 nonprofits. He loves it when vision makes its way to reality. He lives in Richmond, Virginia, go Spiders, along with his wife, Elizabeth, and their 3 teenagers. We were just talking offline a few minutes ago about what life is like with 3 teenagers. I remember life with 2. I don't remember life with 3. But Doug's in a great place right now with his wife, Elizabeth, with those 3 teens. So, Doug, I'm really excited. I'm glad we connected, and I am really looking forward to this conversation. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I don't think I just need you to follow me around and be my hype man for this book or something. I'm glad you liked it.
Well, it's useful.
Actually, it makes me really happy. But the usefulness is 100% why we wrote it. If you can't use it, like next Tuesday, what's the point?
Yeah, it's not vanity publishing. It's not just,
No.
this is really clear that this isn't, oh, Doug, I should have a book. I need to get a book out there. This is really about serving the sector and the leaders in the sector. And I can't plug it enough. It's really, really good. And someone said, you've probably heard this before. I've heard a couple of people say it actually, but something along the lines of all frameworks are flawed and some are useful. So
Yep.
that's the thing. You can look at these frameworks and go, well, I would replace term number 8 with really this term. I think of it more like that. Fine. The point is, have a system, have a framework. These templates are awesome starting points, if nothing else. And I think they're rich as leadership models. So we'll get into some of that, but yeah, thanks. What did I miss in my introduction? What is it you really want people to know about you?
I mean, that's a pretty good job. I mean, like I think people tend to veer in one or two directions, operationally, or they veer vision, high concept. And I think we have given a microphone and platform to the high concept people, to the detriment, particularly in the social sector. Of like, if it's inspiring, you get the stage, or you get the book, or you get the podcast. And the thing that I think I'm like, my soapbox is, very rarely is that found in two people. I mean, one person, it's two people. And we need those people to be in lockstep together. And we've got to get the operators, the integrators, as much time as the others. Or we're going to have a lot of vision that sounds good, but never works its way into reality. So that's where that phrase in the bio came from. But like, that's not a cute, clever turn of phrase. That's sort of a life passion point of mine is, if vision's great, but if it doesn't work its way to 1 foot off the ground, it doesn't matter.
People are familiar with the term chief operating officer.
Yeah.
And now that you mention the fact that, very, very seldom do you find in one person both those, both sides of the continuum, the vision, transformation, charisma, inspiration, and the operational excellence and the diligence and the, is that what COOs are for? Would you say that this book and this concept is geared more toward the COO than it is the CEO?
I think it's geared. We specifically wrote it to both, and that they because the idea that they need to be talking to each other, but not just talking, but understanding each other's worlds. And so vision isn't like anathema. Like, we need vision.
Yeah.
We really, I mean, that's
and it's not like
COOs
don't have vision.
Yeah. And it's not like they don't, but it is in some ways we need a common language with which we can have these really important conversations about leading at the highest levels.
Yep.
And so I think what we were hoping is that it was written for both. The frameworks work for both, but it's a language in some ways that allow them to have really important conversations that have to eventually get to a tactical level. But I think ultimately, right, it goes to trust. Do these two leaders trust each other? And I think having a frameworks that allow them to have those conversations only aids in building that kind of trust. If they don't trust each other, this mission's going nowhere.
So many principles in the book you just hit on in 30 seconds, because one, it's about the people. So the idea that you have the right people in the right places is a big concept of an impact operating system. So you're talking about a CEO and a COO, and granted, not everybody has those, right? But some level of it, right? Some call it a chief of staff or a CAO or a vice president, whatever it is. Some people have someone who's not in one of those positions at all, but they function pretty much as that person in the organization. But it's to me, it is understanding each other. It's also appreciating what the other is bringing to the table that the organization needs. So you covered the people thing, and then you use the word language, of course, which is part of your construct and the culture element of the impact operating system. I love that culture is called out in your framework as a part of the operating system. And one of the four components of culture you brought out was language. So I agree. I think it's how we talk about our work matters, and how we agree on what we mean by certain things matters. So yeah, I appreciate that too. Tell me what it is. How would you put it in a sentence of what it is you're actually helping nonprofits do?
At its core, bottom line, we are helping them design a playbook and operationalize it.
Love it.
Lots of people, some nonprofits have a playbook, but they're too high in the clouds and it doesn't actually work. That's a problem. And then some have a playbook that was written from the 1970s. That's very common. It certainly wasn't built for an internet world, much less an AI agentic world. Mm-hmm. And then some just, there is nothing. There's no, we're bootstrapping it. We hit the grounds running. We're good at loving people or this problem. And we're just going. And we're confusing programming with having like a macro strategy and a playbook.
I don't know the numbers. You might have done some research on this. I don't know which of those is the most prevalent, but what resonates with me the most is the last thing you said there, that they have nothing.
That's what I would say too.
And it's not because we don't need it. Most of them that I talk to go, oh, well, we'd love to have that. We'd love to have an EOS or an iOS or whatever the heck Doug calls it. That would be awesome, Patrick. But you don't understand. We only have such and such money. We only have 3 people on our staff. Yeah. We don't have time. Gosh, building a system like that, we don't have the technology. We don't have the money for the technology. We don't have the time to invest in something that complicated. And I hurt for them, not because they don't have what they need, but that they don't know they have what they need to build an operating system. Do you agree?
A little bit. Here's maybe the way that I would phrase it a little bit differently is every nonprofit, if we're talking about nonprofit, but this is true of every organization, every single one of them has an organizational operating system already.
True.
Because a system is just like, here's how we normally do things.
Yeah, it's running, it's there.
And so you've got this quote from he's in the healthcare sector. His name's Dr. Paul Battledon. And he says, every system is perfectly designed to get the results that it's getting. So you have to ask, do we like the results we're getting? Because you have a system. There's a normal for how you work and the way that your staff works and interacts. So there is a normal. The question is, do you like your normal? And if not, what do you want to do about it?
That's good.
And so the operating system idea is a metaphor. It can have software to help. Like in the EOS world, like you can use 90.io, you could use EOS 1, whatever it is. But you could build it into your project management platform, or you could run it off Google Drive. It's not about the tech. It's about how do we normally get things done and do it in a way that really works for us, our mission, our DNA. And I think that's the conversation I really want to have at that executive team level or whatever level size you have. Because even if you have 3 people, there's an operating system that will work for you. You just got to find it or build it or import something that's customizable.
So first of all, 100% right. Everybody has a system. They don't all realize, though, that they have a system and that the results they're getting are the result of the system they have either created or are fostering. What I'm saying is that even with 3 people, you can have a good system.
Absolutely.
Like it doesn't require, a ton of money and technology to have a good system for how your organization goes about what it does. All those are great. Tools are awesome. And the more you can get, the better if you know how to use them. But that's what I'm saying. I really love what you said about how the software is not the system. The software is a tool. We say that about CRM all the time. You can have a donor database. Oh, we're going to get, Blackbaud's donor database or whatever it is. And that's going to raise us a ton of money. No, it's not. It's not going to raise you a penny.
Yeah.
It's going to be a tool to help you raise more money if you know how to use it, if you use it properly, if you're disciplined on it, so it's not it doesn't create relationships for you, but it's a CRM. Yeah, but it doesn't create the relationships.
I think you're hitting on two things, and it's entirely possible that our entire conversation is just going to be one soapbox after another for me.
Yeah, me too.
Because I
We can
think
trade
this might be my
soapboxes.
third one. I think on the first thing that you said, I think the thing around the system piece is that you only need as much system as you have complexity. And so if you have three people and you have a simple thing, you should have like scale to the level of complexity you have.
Yeah, good.
Not like it's what drives me crazy when people get Salesforce.
Yes.
Which is Salesforce is incredible.
It is.
But the only thing that I know to compare it to is that it is like you're buying a Maserati, which is really good unless you don't know how to drive a stick shift. Because you will run that thing off the road and you'll burn out the engine because you don't know how to drive the car. And Salesforce,
and it costs a lot more to maintain.
A lot of money. And what most people need is like a Volkswagen Jetta. And so get the system that matches what you need, not the ones that like everyone's talking about. Because it's the second soapbox, which is I think we're just hunting for silver bullets.
Yeah.
We're looking for, that system there, whether that's Salesforce or the new donor platform that you have, that's not going to solve all your problems. It can be a tool to helping you solve some problems. It's a means to an end, but you really got to do the work of figuring out on a bigger backed out level, what's the system for how we're going to, like, if you're raising money, it's not as simple as just having a donor CRM. Like what's
right.
You got to have a really locked in playbook for how you're going to do that.
Yeah.
How you're going to have KPIs for that and all these other things.
And people who know what that system is designed for and how it's supposed to, it's like having a finance system, but your accountants are incompetent, don't know how to use it. You know? So, I do want to get into the construct here, and let's start with this question. Impact operating system. What is that and what isn't that?
Yep. So it is a customizable playbook specific for mission-driven organizations. And so we really have created it over a 20 plus year period of time. So like sometimes people say, I couldn't have written this book 20 years ago, but it's kind of BS when they say that. We like this is it's a cobbling together over 20 years tools that we've actually used and built with nonprofits that we've worked with. And so the thing that we quickly learned is that we couldn't import solutions from other places. We had to bring in frameworks that were customizable, that allowed nonprofits to imbue them with like their own DNA, their mission, their philosophies for social change or leadership or whatever it was. That if it was you got to swallow all of this or none of this, it wasn't going to work. So that playbook piece was, and it being very practical, is what it is. And we can talk about some of the different components of it in a few minutes if that's helpful. It's not. Yeah, go for it.
Well, hold the thought on what it's not.
Yeah,
I want to hit on your word playbook because I really love it. I use a similar term with a lot of my coachees. I use a term called the 5-point plan. It could be 3, it could be 20. The point is, people say, I need to become a better communicator. Great. What's your 5-point plan for that? It's just a forced pause to sit down and build some construct for what becoming a better communicator looks like, what you even mean by it, how you'll know it when you're getting there, and what actions you're going to take instead of just walking around going, I really do need to become a better communicator. I'm going to do that. So what we call the 5-point plan as just a little tool or a little hack, it's just a playbook. Yeah. And I love that term because it's simple. It's not a big, comprehensive strategic plan. It's a playbook, and it's playbooks within playbooks, simple tools. I just want to pause on that because it's one of the things I love about what you've done here.
Yeah. I mean, like drilling one down further, we'll see how old your your listeners are if you get this, and if you like sports, because we're using playbook is by and large a sports metaphor.
Yeah.
Like I think most nonprofit organizations or mission driven ones, they don't have a defined playbook. And so what they're saying is I run offense. And that's not a playbook. That's like that's when you're trying to score. We get it. You're trying to move the mission forward. Like I run offense. But what we're saying is you need, like, the Bulls ran the triangle offense. It was a very sophisticated, but actually simple way of, like, here's how we run offense. It's the how that, like, I'm obsessed with.
Yep.
It's like so much of, like, leadership, and this isn't pointed at you, just to be clear. So much of leadership like that, the cottage industry of leadership, is around the why and the what.
Yep.
But we have, for whatever reason, we have jettisoned, like, so how do you do that? How do you do the why and the what? And that's what I'm kind of obsessed with, is I want to help organizations with the how, because I assume, and sometimes I over assume, because I think you might push me on this a little bit in the book. I assume a little bit that, like, the why and the what is more defined, and what we really need to drill down on is the how. And that's what the playbook is about. It's like, how are you going to do this? How?
Yeah, that's good. I did know, we'll get into I do want to hear the 8 elements of the system. And before I come back to the why and the purpose and the what, you were about to tell me what it isn't.
Oh, I mean, it's what we already hit on. It's not a piece of tech. It's not a platform.
Okay.
It is not a microwave solution that will solve your problems tomorrow. And it's not a silver bullet that's going to answer all the questions and all the frictions and pain points that you have. It will be something that you have to work at and continue to work at. But that's what it is to have a job in some ways. I mean, like, we're not going to be like watching the movies and eating bonbons while the system runs itself.
Yeah. Well, that being said, is there a technological tool that accompanies this framework?
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm going to give you a cagey answer. The answer is yes and no. We just finished the second prototype that goes with it. And we met with the development team that we are going to be using for the building of the platform actually last Friday. And so at any point today, I should be getting the scope and the sequence of that. And we're hoping in the next 6 to 12 months that the fully orbed version of this will come out. What we wanted to do is to build a 1.0 and then a 2.0, but do it with the people we were working with, so that we were actively building in feedback loops. So we were building something that they would want and need, not something that was in concept, was our opinions of what they would want and they would need.
Or just a product to sell. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And it excites me that you have that on the horizon, but that does not diminish the usefulness of the framework itself today. And that's a point I don't think we can overemphasize. I mean, you just said it. There's a lot of tools. Go upload, talk to Claude, right? Tell it what but you are the master of the system and how you want to create that in your organization. And so, yeah, that's good. I talked early about the difference between EOS and, are you calling it iOS? Can you do that from a brand stat? Are you?
So everyone shortens it to iOS.
Yeah, but that's an Apple thing, right?
That is, as you know, I never use that, and you will never find it written.
Okay. I didn't think so.
We have trademarked Impact Operating System and Impact OS, but I don't think we would get in trouble with it using it as shorthand.
Probably not.
We work with use it all the time, but I just never. Our organization and team never uses it.
Yeah. Okay. So, but what are the differences between the two? Because part of the framework, part of your case for the framework is that EOS is, I don't remember the exact word you used, is kind of broken for use in the nonprofit arena. Talk more about that.
So I want to be, I think this is helpful. Like, I don't have bad things to say about EOS. I used EOS. I've had some like side businesses over the years, and I've used EOS in those. And then because I was using those, I for 11 years was using them with different nonprofits that I either led or was consulting with. And what I found was that I was constantly having to adapt, translate, or make up for things that were missing. So I'll give you an example. Nowhere in EOS will you find anything about strategy.
Really?
It's not in it's not in there. And wow. the thing for nonprofits is your entire existence is based on your theory of change,
right?
Which is a fancy way of saying strategy in the social sector.
That's right.
So it's missing the core component that makes a nonprofit, other than the mission side of it, a nonprofit.
Well, I haven't looked into EOS, but that surprises me. I mean, an entrepreneur, starting you got to have a strategy.
It assumes, and I'm not saying this is bad again. I'm just saying it assumes that you have one.
Okay.
And that your goals are coming from that place.
Okay.
But I do think there's
sense.
A big misunderstanding oftentimes between goals and strategy.
Definitely.
Goals are not strategy.
Right.
If I could recommend actually one book, it's called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. And it really breaks down, this guy is the best living strategist in the world. And his name is Richard Rumelt. And it is the best thing I've ever read on strategy and why it matters, how to develop it, and what it does for you as an organizational leader. It's so good. It's done more to influence how I think on goal setting and all those things than anything else. That's a bit of a rabbit trail.
Yeah, but that's okay.
It's missing strategy. It doesn't have anything about culture, and nonprofits are so people forward, and have such a unique kind of constituency of people who are involved. I don't know how you have any kind of operating system that isn't regularly thinking about culture. The people side of it is very black and white for a business. I pay you money, you deliver results. At the end of the day, that's what it is. And if you don't, I'll fire you. If I'm really kind of put you on a performance improvement plan.
It's transactional.
And that's okay. It's a business. We're not trying to pretend like a business shouldn't be a business. That's just not what it is for nonprofits or mission-driven businesses that want more. And I think the thing we consistently kept seeing was you have these very decentralized power centers for nonprofits. You might have an executive director or CEO, but that person is actually responsible to the board. And at any point, if the board disagrees, they can overrule. But it also is well, what about the executive team? That's a power center. What about the donors, the 3 donors who make up 45% of the revenue? Don't tell me that's not power. And what about your key volunteers who are the ambassadors? And if they have a bad experience, they're going to tell everyone. The way that power is distributed in nonprofits is really unique. And then you start getting into the metric side of it. The metrics for nonprofits, really important. And the way that you build them is incredibly important. In every survey we've taken, metrics is the number one pain point that comes up over and over and over again. And then PS, there's this thing called development. You got to raise money. And that's just not in EOS because it's not for nonprofits. It's for business. So those are some of the key differences.
Yeah, I'll have to think more too about the intersection, I guess, of the concept of the term business. There's an age-old argument, are nonprofits businesses? And we hear this from board members and others, nonprofits aren't businesses, they're, whatever. And it was, oh yes, they absolutely are a business. And I'm of the school that they are a business under a different tax structure. And so what I like is that while you're cautioning, and don't let me misrepresent you, but while you're cautioning against, hey, we can't just treat this like a corporation or a business sort of thing, you've not eliminated all the needed business element. I mean, development is a business function. It's revenue. We don't have revenue. We don't, what did they say? No money, no mission. If you get more sophisticated in the nonprofit world, you move from just development and accounting to strategic finance. I mean, what are the business units of a nonprofit? There are business units. Ask Goodwill Industries, or ask, anybody who has revenue generating service and these kinds of things. So there are business units, there's HR, there's finance, there's revenue development, there's, all of these things. So it is a business, there are business aspects, but to your point, it is around more of a, I tell people it's a trade off. The IRS gives you a tax break. Why? Because you're promising something of social value. They literally ask that on the 990 form. What are you doing that's worthy of a tax break? Whereas a company, their core mission, whatever they say their mission is to make a profit. That's their core. That's why they're in business and not just doing some, so there are some subtle differences. I just kind of wanted to, get your take on maybe a little bit more, say more about that, how you see the differences and the intersections.
I can make an argument for both. And there's a degree to which I could talk out of both sides of my mouth as well on this one. Like a chief revenue officer, chief growth officer, my wife is a chief growth officer, is a chief development officer by any other name. They just are doing, they're very different things, but they are still doing the same macro level thing. Do we have enough revenue for the goals that we have reached? Yes or no? And I think that at some level there's that. What I wanted to really hit on with the idea of the Impact OS was there are some very particular nuances that, if not attended to, will undermine an organizational system for a nonprofit. And one of them is that in the nonprofit space, we call it the compensation formula. The compensation formula for a staff member is different than it is for someone who's at a business most of the time. And so we would say the compensation formula equals money plus meaning. That we are making a trade-off. I'm willing to make less money if you will actually make sure that my job has meaning. And so we're in a sector that by and large will have somewhere, it varies on which part of the sector you are, but somewhere between 30 and 50% less money in terms of salary. The trade-off is I'm going to feel a lot more meaning in my everyday work. But the issue then is, go ahead. You're going to say something?
I want to push on that just a little bit.
Yeah, please do.
And just think out loud on that. I get your point and I somewhat agree with it, but I think it's more degrees than it is nonprofits have meaning and businesses don't have meaning in the workplace.
Yeah.
One of the things that employees, one of the main things that motivates people in any job is this idea of meaning and self-determination. Do I have autonomy? Do I have mastery and competence? And am I related in some way to the mission and the culture? So I would say there's maybe the ratio is different in that compensation formula. And I can make the case on what you're saying. Almost all, not all of them, but almost all of the nonprofit leaders that I coach, when we do motivators assessments, they're higher on the altruistic dimension and lower on the economic dimension. So the formula the ratio is a little different, but I wouldn't say that business employees don't want meaning in their work. They often leave it because they don't feel that, even when they're paid a lot.
I think you're right. We'll talk sometimes about thresholds. There's a threshold of money,
right, that you got to have.
That you have to be paid.
That's right.
I would say in the business world, there's still a threshold of cultural elements that need to be true. And so there's a reason that particularly millennials and down under are very allergic to things that start to feel like they're toxic culture or late stage capitalism or
institutional at all.
Yeah. And so what is that? They could be really, really, really well paid and they're like, I'm out. Yep. So I do take your point. I think that is right. But I think the ratio or the percentages, let's say we have 100%.
I think that's right.
It's how much, what are the percentages that get that are weighted on the money side versus the percentages on the meaning side. And I think it's about distribution, maybe.
Yeah.
And I wanted the way that we worked with nonprofits in this system to really make sure that we were thinking at a leadership level, how are we stewarding, shepherding, attending to the meaning element and making sure, because, this is what it was. I read this stat and it just blew my hair back. 93% of staff at nonprofits do not understand how their everyday work connect to their change theory, their strategy.
That's right.
And if you have that just screams, we have a meaning problem. And then you look at another, I'm a stat head. So there's another stat that is, of all sectors, the social sector has almost twice the attrition rate in terms of retention. Like we have twice as many people leave as the next one. So like the circus will have a better retention rate of employees than the social sector by at least half. And so for us, we were having these anecdotal conversations. We were making these like broad observations. And then we started to see these stats that were like, I think this is causal. I don't think this is corollary. I think these things are connected to each other. Yeah. And so again, we were having these conversations over decades. And so we're attaching these dots, not quickly, but over time, and then testing them. And so that the meaning piece just kept coming up and up and up. And so we wanted a system that, and even how do we develop staff members? How do we think about changes and change management? The meaning piece is getting filtered into all of that. Well, for how we're thinking about it.
Yeah. And this is resonating because just the language alone in the impact operating system, it acknowledges for nonprofits, we understand the things you are mostly wanting to pay attention, like, and needing to pay attention to. So I appreciate that. Do you want to go through, I think it might be helpful. I don't think we can obviously we can't dive deep into it, but, the impact operating system, if I'm reading this right, has 8 components to it.
Correct.
Those 8 components, I mean, the book breaks down each one into really some great tools for each one, but I think it might be helpful just to even say what the 8 components are. Because I think there's probably still some listeners right now going, and this all sounds really neat, but I still don't know what it is. So
yeah. So is it helpful to just like give you the drive-by on all of them real quickly, and then we can break it down?
Yeah. I mean, you'll know best how to do that, but I think I'd like to hear, from the author, how you lay this out.
So the first component is vision, which is, I think that you want to talk about an overwritten topic, an over talked about topic of the last 30 years. It's that one. And yet, despite all of that, I think we have a vision problem. And so one of the things that we talk about is like in this system of vision is a moonshot. It is a time-bound slice of your bigger, longer term vision. And so if you've got a 20-year vision, fantastic. I want a GPS location on where you're going to be in 5 years. And I want specifics. It's the difference between saying I'm going on vacation and I'm going to Orlando, Florida, where I'm going to go to Disney World and I will be there on June the 25th. Like I want specifics, because then I can't build a strategy, which is the second one, which is like, how am I going to get from A, where I am now, to B, the moonshot, that 5-year vision? Well, how am I going to do that? And what's the plan for doing that? So a strategy should not just be the filter for how I make decisions and what I say yes or no to, but also we're going to be chunking it out into goals. Like, what am I doing the next 90 days? What should I be doing the next year? What's the goal 3 years from now? Like, it should be actionable. If it's not actionable, it's a pretty worthless strategy. You're not going to get to that moonshot.
Can I quickly interject right there? Because
you may.
Where the vision and the mission lie. And I know I don't think you're going to disagree with this at all. I think it's in your book, but it's not framed this way up front. In your vision section, you've got a sort of vision continuum. You've got 20-year big vision, 20-year vision statement, which is a more formalized, codified. This is our vision for the big thing, and then what you call the 5-year moonshot.
Yeah. Imagine Russian nesting dolls of arrows pointing somewhere.
Yes, and I just it made me think of leaders that I have coached. I remember one in particular, and I'll never forget this. This was a number of years ago. She scored low on vision casting as a leader, and it troubled her, as it might, if you're a leader, not good on vision. This was a 360-degree assessment tool, so others were telling her there's not a lot of vision casting. And what we realized as we looked at the practices of leaders in vision statement is vision is not just that big transformational, ideological, innovative, big thing. Even the 5-year moonshot. I mean, the word moonshot, right?
Yeah.
Vision, I have found, can be in a moment. It can be if we make our board financial reports more graphic, streamlined, and easy to read, our board conversations will be more strategically focused. You're literally creating for the finance director a vision for how a board meeting will look different if we do this. And so I would even say there's more nesting arrows than even, I don't think it stops at the 5-year moonshot. I don't think you do either.
It doesn't.
But when you talk about then strategy as being 90 days and 6 months and 3, those have to be tied to micro visions.
Exactly.
I mean, goals are visions in a way more than they are strategies. So I don't know. You don't have to respond to that. Just that was ringing in my head as you were going through from vision to strategy.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I don't have any pushback on that. I would say, like, while the visual stops at 5 years, the next click down for us in our framework is 3 years, then 1 year, then 90 days that are constantly getting refreshed every quarter.
Right.
To me, like the important part of the framework for strategy is that it's flexible. And so I think, I think there are tools that were good that lasted for a while and were built for another world, primarily because they were built in the 50s, that were like very intricate and very detail oriented. And if the world changed, the plan broke. And we need framework. We need a framework for planning, for operational planning, that, like, if the world changes, like COVID or, like, I don't know, the Iran war or whatever it might be, that the
or
plan
federal
doesn't
funding
get thrown out. I work with a ton of different clients. One of our clients lost 86% of their funding in one day.
Yep.
Because the funding went away. Now, fortunately, they had been planning on it, but, like, you need a plan that you don't just throw away because that happened. It's no, the plan's still good. We just are going to have to adjust and refresh the next 90 days.
Totally right.
All right. Metrics is another big one. Obviously, what you measure, you manage.
Did you skip development?
It's my notes are
your
slightly
orders.
different order.
Your order's different.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Let's do development. We'll do development. Obviously, this is where the revenue comes from. One of the things that is unique to nonprofit world, whether we're talking, we can nuance the difference between nonprofit and business. Is most nonprofits, if you don't raise the money or get the grants or whatever it is, you and your family and your staff will not be eating. And so that is a thing. So we talked about how what you need for development is a modern playbook that is scaled to the bandwidth of your team, meaning, like, the people hours that they have to give to the playbook and the expertise that they have or don't have. And then you need rhythmic triggers to refresh it. Just because it worked last year does not mean it's going to work this year. And so we need to regularly be bringing it into the shop to make adjustments to the playbook and the team changes. Maybe we need to hire someone, or maybe we need to fire someone, or we need to train on, if everyone's not on your development team training on AI, we might have a problem on our hands because the world is changing around us.
Man, this is one, I bet a lot of our listeners wish we could just do this whole episode just on development, because everyone wants help with that area.
Yeah.
A couple of questions for you. Just, this is a kind of a dumb one, but fundraising, or development? What's the difference?
So I use development because it incorporates the idea of like a diversity of revenue streams.
Yeah.
So fundraising is just a classic, like there are different ways to raise money, but it is going out, making ask and raising money. But I can have a mission driven business that is part of my development. It's part of my diversified revenue stream. Grants is not fundraising. That is a different thing. It falls under the broader umbrella of development. So that's why we chose that word.
Yeah, or investment income, for example. So no, I choose the word too. I just a lot of people still kind of struggle with the differentiation between those. I hate to derail you, but this is one of the questions on development before you move to metrics. Is you mentioned that development, how did you say it? It's a playbook that is scalable for your bandwidth.
Yes.
This is a chicken and egg question for many organizations. Development, it costs money to raise money. We know this. It takes talented people. It takes, the people with all the tools and know how to use them have an advantage. And so many nonprofits will say, well, we would raise more money, but man, we only have a part-time, you cover this in your book, but we only have a part-time, fundraising coordinator, and they're responsible for putting all our posts on Facebook. And plus they, do our direct mail campaign, and they run our events, and they're
generalists to the extreme.
Yeah. And we're strapped. We just don't have the money. And I've worked with other organizations who look at long-term strategy and say, look, we've got a healthy reserve, or we have some money in our endowment. We've got to make an investment. We might be at a loss on our budget for the next 2 years, but we've got to hire a chief development officer who really knows how to go find, because there's untapped potential here, and we've got to go do this. So when you say build the playbook to the scale, my question would be, or just a challenging conversation, is it always build the playbook to the scale, or is it build a playbook and then scale to the playbook? Which comes first?
I think you're building the way that we're doing it when we're working with an organization. There's the playbook that we can run in the next 12 months. And there's the playbook that we want to have in 3 years.
Good. Well said. Yeah. I like that.
And so, but those, to your point, the chicken and the egg, those things have to be in conversation with each other. I'm not making an assumption about the sequence. So it might be, we got to make that investment. And there are nonprofits that exist that I think they have boards that are protecting that money. And they need, like, you're a nonprofit, you need to invest some, and you don't have an endowment. You're sitting on 5 years of reserves. Like that's fiscally irresponsible. You need to invest that money because there are people you are meant to impact who are not being impacted because you're sitting on 5 years of reserves. If you don't have an endowment, we need to have a conversation around how that money is getting spent. On the other hand, like what I think a lot of board members, this kind of connects to the vision one that you were talking about earlier. I think a lot of board members are like, I don't believe you with your vision because we keep having the same problem every year. But the moment you start showing them a plan, this building momentum of you setting a goal, hitting the goal, next goal, hitting the goal, that starts to build trust. It starts to build momentum. And then when you go to them and you're saying, we need a chief development officer, we can't afford it. Here's the plan. Here's where we want to be in 3 years. Will you fund it? Like board members, if they trust that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, they will fund things not all the time, but a lot of the time they will. But I think we have to fight their growing cynicism in this space that, like, we're just here and it feels like we're here to rubber stamp this. That's not a great board scenario, but also you're not doing the thing that you said you're going to do. There's a reason 71% of nonprofits are actively right now failing at their mission.
Yeah.
71%.
Yep. And
you've given me another soapbox to stand
on.
I
throw that out. I'm staying quiet on that one because we wouldn't finish the episode if I dove into that one too. As I agree wholeheartedly with you. I want to pause on one more thing on development before you move to metrics, and that is, by the way, Doug's not on here to plug his book. He's made that clear when we talked, but I'm going to plug it because holy moly, I want to say this about this development section. In the book, this is a teaser. In the book, there's one page worth the price of the book and then some. And,
wow. Which one is it?
It's the fuel. It's the fuel matrix.
Yeah.
Because we have our people I work with are familiar with board matrix and even mission matrix and things like that. The fuel matrix is in the development section of the book, and it is a 4x9. So there's sort of elementary things you can do all the way up to the more sophisticated things you can do. And so this matrix meets you where you are and within your bandwidth, but across 9 aspects of doing development well. And hint, it's not just have a good CRM software. So technology is one of the 9
categories. Yeah.
But that's not what this is. And so for those listeners out there who don't have a resource development plan, and I don't mean it's just a strategic plan, I mean a resource development plan, just this page alone can create one for you, in my opinion. If you don't have one, start here. This is really good, practical stuff. Much of it that you probably haven't thought about are related to development. So it was one of my favorite parts of the book. I had to stop and plug it.
It's one of our highest value things that we do in working with an organization. And it's fast. It takes 90, it's a 90-minute work session. Yeah. It does not take long to do this work session and to then be like, all right, I think I know what we're doing for the next 12 months, where we need to go and what we need to build. Can we talk about metrics?
Yeah.
Number one pain point by most nonprofit leaders. You usually see two ditches, no numbers. And it's just all anecdote, all qualitative stuff. And it's all the feels and squishy. And then what we call waterboarding by data, which is like, we've got 1,000 data points. But I think the thing that we want to say is if you manage what you measure, not all things that are data points that you measure are created equal. And so what we are looking for in creating a dashboard are the 9 to 15 key numbers that are most important to giving you a snapshot of how your organization is doing. And it's a ratio of, for every 2 lead measures that you have, things that I can control that are practices or inputs, and I can control them. I get to control my effort. And for every 2 of those, there's 1 lag measure, the thing that I can't control that I want to see happen. And this dashboard is this is the hardest thing probably that we do when working with an organization, because it has a lot going on. And there are a lot of things you could count, and deciding what you will count and look at every single week as a dashboard it's challenging. This is one where I think the nonprofit side of it is harder and more complex than the business side of it. Come back at me. Tell me I'm wrong on that one.
I can't tell you how right you are, and you know it.
Oh.
Yeah, and it is one of we do a lot of outcome measurement training, for example. That's the nonprofit nomenclature for it, right? Outcome measurement. And we talk about, inputs, activities, outputs, and outcomes. So you're talking about inputs and outcomes, or inputs and outputs. Where we often differentiate is nonprofits are really good at measuring, fairly good at measuring inputs, really good at measuring outputs. Outputs being, we delivered X number of meals last year. We served X number of clients last year. It's a volume and scale and numbers of output, what we did. And they're really good at describing their activities, because that's their programs. Oh, we have an after-school tutorial program where, volunteers match up with 3rd graders who are struggling and whatever. It's the outcomes. Okay, so with all those inputs and all those activities, at the level of output that you've measured, what's the result? What's changing for these kids? What's changing for these? And that is, again, we could go another hour on this easily. I did my doctoral work on mission measurement. How are nonprofits measuring their performance against their stated missions? Inputs and outputs aren't sufficient to measure whether or not you're at least advancing the mission, if not accomplishing it. So
can we, can I tell one story on this I think, because I want to unpack this one a little bit more. Cause I think it's harder to sometimes to understand, but I want to pull some things apart. So we worked with an organization. It was a Midwest mid-major city. And they were, we'll call them RISE. That's what we call them in the book. That's not their actual name. When we have used names in the past, they get inundated by requests and then they ask us not to use their name anymore. So
it's a good name,
the
though.
thing that they, it is. The thing that they were working on is they were working with federal inmates in the prison system who were leaving the prison system within a certain amount of time. And obviously, like, the thing that they wanted to see is recidivism rates dropping and that those inmates having a second chance at a different kind of life. And when their leader came in to take over, he had a very, very strong first 5 years in terms of, like, fundraising was going up, volunteerism was going up, all the things that you would want to see in terms of the organization were kind of up and to the right. But recidivism rates among the people who were in their programs was barely marginally better. And so if that's true, this is what he said. What's the point?
Yep.
Like, we're asking millions of dollars. I mean, they were a fairly large organization for the kind of work that they were doing. Millions of dollars, and we're barely making a mark, even though we're, like, the programs were fantastic, attendance, participation, all that stuff. And it was only when they locked in their dashboard were they able to be like, this is the missing thing right here. Like, this is, like, what they realized is that for them, for their theory of change to work, they had to connect people relationally in the prison who were going to be living near where it is that they were going to be moving into, and would operate almost not like this, because this sounds a little paternalistic, but it's not in the way that they were doing it, almost like a sponsor. And so what they started to track was, like, what's the ratio of people in our program to sponsors who are going to be where they live geographically within 18 months of them being released. And they started tracking that. That number was never tracked. And within 1 year of starting to track that, it spiked and it kept going up because it got better at it over time. And so I think that's what we want to see is, like, it doesn't matter. I mean, like, the number of meals that you serve, that's great. That's important. But do you, like, the societal impact of the meals is something different.
Yep.
And so it's like recidivism rates, families being put back together, stable, making different civic choices. That's the impact we want to see happen. And so, like, that's why we measure things, not because.
That's right. Not because a funder requires you to have some metrics.
I'm not doing this because we the annual report or a funder is demanding ROI and is holding, like, metrics help us make good decisions. That's the most important thing.
They do, on the other hand, on the other end, rather, they also help us make the case for additional support. So when we have the metrics, in my studies, I found a number of nonprofits who didn't measure against their mission, for example. The ones that did, some of the ones that didn't communicate it. It wasn't in their annual report. They weren't touting, hey, we actually are accomplishing this mission. So you do it not to beat your chest. You do it to improve your programs or eliminate the ones that don't work, create new ones, but also to make the case for additional ones. So, all right, we got 3 more to cover.
Couple more.
You go in your order.
So culture is the next one. And the big thing around this is that in our opinion, culture is one of the most important skill sets of the future. It is, particularly in this sector, that culture making is a skill that you can learn. Does it have soft edges? Yes, but there are hard skills. That there is actually sociological phenomena at work in culture making that you can repeat. and you can learn them.
100%.
And now I'm married to a sociologist. So this is one that I know probably more about than I probably even should. This is like our dinner table conversation. But it is, everyone has a culture. The question is, do you like it or not? So her definition of culture, and it's the one that we use in the book, is that culture is whatever is normal for a group of people. It's whatever is normal for a group of people. And so you have a normal at your workplace. Do you like the normal? And if not, usually that has happened by accident. Not always, but most of the time. What if it could happen by intention? And it can, if you are willing to learn culture making as a skill set.
100%. We do culture mapping in our work, and that is where the team literally designs the culture they intend to live out. And what you again, you know this, but for our listeners who hear the word, particularly organizational, when you say organizational culture, people's eyes glaze over. It's like, what is that nebulous buzzword? And in our, I tell people this, and you actually use this definition in your book. The definition we settled on in my PhD program was the way we do things around here. Yeah. And so you've heard, a lot of people have now heard that definition. I really like yours. What's norm for a group of people? And so I tell people, well, you'll hear conversation. Think about what you go and tell your spouse or your friends or your family about your job. What do you talk about? It's like, well, I don't know much about organizational culture, but we have fun where I work. Okay, that's culture. Well, I don't know much about our organizational culture, but our people don't get paid squat and we're overworked. That's culture. I don't know about culture, but all the decisions get made in a room by a couple of people and we don't know anything until it's, after the fact. That's all culture. And when you say those things, it's like, oh, so it's like our behaviors and our, that's exactly it. And you get to design that. You, especially the leadership has to shape. It's one of the primary jobs of a leader is you have to shape that culture and an environment where the people can shape a healthy culture for you. So I'm all in on that one too, man. No disagreements here. We for our listeners, we had this conversation offline. We said, hey, it's okay if we push back on each other. Like if there's a concept no, man, this is why I love this book and this framework. It's all spot on. I just love that you've integrated it all into what you're calling the system, because it is. It's parts of it. Yeah. What's next?
All right, we got people. And in the book, there are actually 2 chapters on this. So the first one is like the actual people themselves, which is about like getting the right people in the right seats with the right fit. And so when we talk about fit, we're talking about culture. Are they a culture fit? Are they a competency fit? And are they a compensation fit? And again, when we're thinking about compensation in the way that we're thinking money and meaning. Yeah. And that we cannot have 2 out of 3 yeses. We need all greens or all checks for all 3. And if they're not, then we have to think through like, well, what would it look like to put them in a place, get them to a place where they're a good fit? But when we're talking about fit, it's not just staff in a nonprofit. We've got to be talking about donors, board, executive team, staff, and then key volunteers. Like that's a broad constituency, but we have to be thinking about fit for all of them. People are not widgets. And so it's really important that we think about it. The second aspect of it, so the first part is about people. The second one is the structures that those people inhabit. And so like an org chart is a structure. It's here's how power is distributed in some level or decisions get made. Here's who your direct report is or whatever. But also we got to think about roles and responsibilities, because roles and responsibilities aren't always clear, particularly in a nonprofit on an org chart. We'd love them to be, because that would be so simple, but it never actually works like that. And so what we want to make sure happens is that the structures exist to serve the people and not the other way around. We do not want the tail to wag the dog. We need just as much structure and the right structure. So it's setting people up to win. Like people want to win at their job. They're not showing up just to collect a paycheck. They actually want to contribute. And if they feel like the structure's blocking that, they get really irritated real fast.
One of the things that we hear a lot is, oh, gosh, how much we could get done if it weren't for the darn people. So, and you want to move from a culture of that to a culture of we're getting done what we're getting done because of our people. Right?
Yeah.
Because we have the right people and because they're fulfilled and they're motivated intrinsically to do this work. I also, I noticed the 2 chapters on people, and I will just say this, org charts and things like, Darcy or RC or RACY or whatever project management acronym you want to use on that. Again, great tools, but they're more than just, frameworks, they're structure. And if there's anything I hear at the ground level when we do employee surveys or culture mapping is clarity. We want clarity. And that's what these structures do.
Yes.
Is they provide clarity. So yeah, love that.
I mean, I think we use that Brene Brown quote, clarity is kindness. The way that we can be kind to people is by letting them know, here's how this is going to work. And we're pretty consistent with how it works.
I heard that the other day. I didn't know it was Brene Brown. I heard, clear is kind, unclear is unkind. It was so they put the negative edge on the back end of it, which is really,
it's got some bite. I like that.
That's pretty powerful. Unclear is unkind.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
The next one, I mean, the next one, we're on the second to last one, systems. This is the one that has the most overlap with EOS, for those of you who are familiar with it. And it's like, it's identifying, documenting, codifying, and following through on some very simple, repeatable operational systems that touch most of your staff on every week basis. So like expense reports. If I gave you the choice of doing 3 hours for expense reports once a month or 25 minutes, everyone's picking 25 minutes. But most of us have systems that are built for the medium or longer version of that. And so what we're trying to do with that one is help people identify the right systems. And we call it the 7 VIPs, the 7 very important processes that are, again, if you have a job, you're going to have to do stuff like this. That's just part and parcel of what it is to be an adult in a job where you're getting paid. And so you can choose to be the longer version with lots of friction or a shorter one. Let's make it the shorter one that's consistent. Sort of the moniker we use around this one in the book is you can't ask everyone to do everything perfectly, but you can ask everyone to do a few things with great consistency. And that's really what we drive home with that system component.
There's a lot we could, again, there's another 3 hours just on systems. Yeah. I want to plug another part of the book I really liked was in that VIP tool, the very important processes. We hear the term we hear a lot in the sector is SOPs, right? Standard operating procedures. And when you're given the project to write the SOPs, it's like, are those SOPs written yet? And that's really all this is, what are the processes? You gave something I wanted to highlight, and that is a sort of criteria for what constitutes a VIP process. And there's just 4 things. And these are
4 things.
So this is a good place to start. If you're looking at writing SOPs for your whole operation, start with the ones that, most staff need to know it. Right? Most staff will use this at some point or consistently. Second, they'll use it frequently. This is a process that gets used frequently in your organization. Third, it's something that you would think needs to be covered when you're going through your orienting and onboarding, right? Your first week of training. Think of those things. What are the things that all the employees need to know coming in? And the fourth thing is, that it's not some strategic nebulous concept. It is operational. It's functional. It's nuts and bolts. 4 criteria. Come up with those. What are those things? And start to build an SOP framework for that, or whatever you want to call it. But I really liked that tool. Just wanted to say that. That was
thank you.
Very, again, such practical stuff. If you don't have if you don't have what you would call sophisticated frameworks and they intimidate you, this whole idea of systems and operations and protocol and all, just get this book and just use 3 of the tools in it right? You will find this stuff is not rocket science.
It's not.
But it's extremely powerful. It's just not applied. And this makes it where you can apply it. Seriously, I can't sell this enough. This is really good stuff. Really good stuff. All right. And the last one?
Last one is rhythms.
Yeah.
So this is really speaking to like, what are the recurring patterns? So that can meetings and ways that we set goals, things where we pull away and evaluate, like what are the rhythms and cadences that we call it the impact calendar, that are the most important things that we schedule and that actually dictate the impact we're going to have. Because one of the things that you see is that, like, by and large, if you've got a strategy that works, you're good at setting goals and delivering on goals, following through, and you're counting, like you've got metrics, impact's somewhat predictable, not exclusively, but there's a predictable nature to it. And if that's true, that means you can calendar certain pieces of things. And so this is one where I'm personally pretty ruthless about. So when I think we should always, and this is when we're working with an organization, this is what they walk away with. Like, they will have their most important events or meetings. And I don't mean master schedule. I don't mean program schedule. I mean your impact events. So that could be like a weekly impact check-in with our executive team, that we're going to schedule those things, or the board retreat, or the 90-day goal refresh that we do every quarter. Well, we know when those things happen. We're going to schedule those 3 years in advance. And then next year, we're going to add the year that just went by. We're going to tack it on at the end. So we will always be 2 to 3 years scheduled in advance, and everything flows around those things. We do not move those. If we move them, the whole thing starts to get real rickety real fast.
We don't have time to go into it. We talked a lot about meeting cadence, and some organizations have seasons. I remember in my early United Way days, it's not like this anymore, but in my early United Way days, like 90s, there were seasons. You know, we were raising money in the fall in the workplace. We were recruiting different volunteers in the spring to do the allocations process. Summer was kind of light, and we got to kind of, have flex schedules and things like that. It's not like that anymore. But rhythms and cadences. And I thought of two analogies just when I read the word rhythms, just when I saw that rhythms was one of the 8 components. I remembered the first time I learned to ride a horse. My sister had a horse, loved horses. And, there's 4 basic, I'm not an equestrian person, but I do know there's 4 very basic gaits. So there's walking. You can walk with a horse, and that's great. It's not a ton of fun. It's kind of relaxing. You don't get very far very fast, but you're walking. Then there's trotting, and trotting is jarring. Trotting, you're bouncing up and down pretty hard. I remember the first time I got the horse.
It hurts.
It hurts. The first time I trotted, I'm like, ooh, I don't like this. This isn't comfortable. How can people do this? Between trotting and galloping, which can be...
Is it cantering?
Well, maybe loping. I don't think it's cantering.
It's loping.
It's loping, and loping
cantering might be a kind of trotting.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, it's more that like the showy kind of stuff.
Clearly, I'm not an equestrian either.
Loping, though, is the smooth, like you're more than trotting, but you're not at a gallop, which scares some people to death. It's just this smooth, man. The first time I hit a loping gait, I felt like, oh my, you're in the pocket. There's this rhythm. And I think about that in organizations. There's organizations that are walking. They're risk averse. They don't want to go too fast. And it's taken them a long time to get where they're going, but they're not falling off. And then there's the trotters, and everything's chaotic and it's herky jerky, and they feel like they're moving somewhere, but good Lord, it's painful. It's the loping organizations, right? That have that smoothness going. The other analogy I thought of was the recent thing I read, and I don't remember word for word what it was, but something about speed and turbulence are not the same thing. When we feel like, oh, we're going too fast, sometimes it's not that you're going too fast. It's that you don't have a system or you don't have a good system. You have a system, but you don't have a system for managing the smoothness of the fast. You're trotting and not loping, but we think of turbulence as, well, we're going too fast. Not necessarily. Anyway, that's what I thought of when I thought about rhythms.
Well, so a couple of years ago, my wife and I, for our anniversary, this was her idea. We went to a dude ranch out in Colorado for like 4 or 5 days. So I haven't ridden horses since some random vacation as a kid in Oklahoma. And so I remember, you're kind of like activating the memory now, but the thing about loping is that there's a long period of time when that's happening, when no feet are on the ground. And the thing that's moving the horse is its momentum.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And so the galloping is like you're pushing off the ground and it's maximum work. And I feel like those are the two extremes, right? You've got the walking and you've got the galloping, but the loping is the sweet spot that we've probably all been in, where it's like the momentum is carrying us and it feels effortless and it's amazing. It's like the Shangri-La of organizational leadership.
That's it.
But cadences do that. Yep. It's like when people are surprised. Can you imagine if people were surprised? It's like December 25, it's Christmas again. Like we know that we can plan for that. Or the trimesters in the public education system where it's like, wait, the kids are home all summer. Like these aren't surprising things. And actually in organizational life, at least in the nonprofit sector. But I would argue beyond that, these things are more predictable and we can plan around that. And the more we plan some very basic rocks in the river of our calendar, not the goals, the calendar becomes the engine that drives the momentum. And that's I think that's the thing that I feel really most passionate about around that, is that the calendar become the engine because we already made the decision. We've made this decision by putting time on the calendar and we're keeping it. Wow.
Doug, in the little time that we have left, we've actually gone over what we normally do because really I nerd out on this. This is great content. I'd like to know for myself, as I'm talking to some of our clients and for our listeners, what are you doing for organizations beyond offering this book and this framework? So I think I noticed, I didn't dig deep into it, but I noticed, by the way, you've got a free assessment tool online. You've got a quick sort of get started kit online. I mean, for people that really wanted to be just, quick, down and dirty and cheap, you've really already given everything away. But for organizations that look at this and go, oh yes, we can build this and we want to do it, a guide and a facilitator that understands those frameworks can really make the difference. So we know this, and the organizations that work with us know this. What is it? I think there were 2 or 3 or 4 levels at which people could engage with you, so where you kind of meet them where they are. But what is it you can offer beyond the actual frameworks to organizations that might be interested?
Yeah, I think it was when we built this out as a quote offering, it was really important to us that every size organization at any size price point would have access to what it is that we think this could be. And so for those who are wanting a guide and a facilitator, there's what we call the Impact Light. And that is, we're going to work with you for 6 weeks, and then we're going to give you a construct and a simple plan for you to keep building out the operating system so you can customize it and then integrate it. It's going to have an integration plan into your organization, but you're on your own after 6 weeks. The second one is called the Impact Pro. That's the one virtually, not all, but virtually every organization, this is the one they pick, which is like, it's a full year. We're going to customize the whole thing with you. It takes about 3 months. And then we're going to spend 8 months actually using the system in your organization with you and apprenticing you and training you, giving you coaching, feedback, consultation, because you will hit brick walls. That's inevitable. And then the last one is the premium version, which is 2 years, lots and lots of bells and whistles that only make sense if you're very large, you're very complex, and you've got some usually like some thorny, I don't want to say issues, but like some people complexity with your board and your executive team that you're going to want to unpack a little bit. So those are the 3 ways that we we tend to work with an organization.
Well, I didn't want to leave that unsaid because this, again, having a third party guide you through the construct, help you ask the right questions, it can really, really make this high leverage for you. So, and then the website, if people want to know more about this, is impactnonprofit.com. So we'll have it on the podcast episode page, impactnonprofit.com. Doug, thank you so much for being here. There's 2 questions that I like to ask all my guests at the end of the show because I love the stories and the frameworks and I love to learn. And so here's the first one. Who is a leader that comes to mind in your life who's had tremendous impact on your leadership and your view of leadership, and why? This can be someone you know, it can be family, it can be someone you've watched from afar off, it could be someone from history. But who comes to mind as that big influencer for you, and why?
Yeah, there is a man that I met when I was 25. I am no longer 25. Named Steve Cockram, and he's English. And he was the first, maybe not the first, but like the first very significant relationship that I had where he was like, if you were looking for someone to mentor you, I will do that. He saw something and was willing to like get through all the coal, and maybe we've gotten the edge of a diamond in the last 25 years. I don't know. But we're still very close. And I think about the things that he shared, and actually I was literally texting him 2 days ago. We're families are close. His daughter has like lived with us for a little bit of time, internship, that kind of stuff. But I think there was nothing in it for him, I think was a piece of it. It was like, I wasn't going to make him more money. He's just like, I want to invest in someone. I remember what it was like to be 25 and just getting started. Man, changed my life.
You had me at, he saw something. Right. He saw something in me. The leaders that do that, they see that we often even can't see, but then he did more than just see it and acknowledge it. He invested in it, invested in you. That's super cool. That's awesome. Great story. Great tribute. Last question. You're on the top of a mountain with a megahorn, and all the leaders of the world are at the base of the mountain to hear what you have to say, but you've got 15 seconds to say it. And this is the thing you would tell all leaders to keep in mind as they lead. What is that 15-second Doug Paul soundbite on leadership?
It might be 5 seconds. You can't take people to places you haven't been yourself.
Ooh, interesting.
It's around authenticity in the way in which we oftentimes ask people to do very hard things. We can't be talking about things that we were just doing in the past. It has to be active. It doesn't have to be the specific things, but if we're going to talk about doing hard things, they need to see us doing hard things. There's a widening gap between like the visioneer leader who isn't doing the things that they're telling all the underlings to do. And that gap seems and oftentimes to be wider. My guess is this is why you have, I don't know, this podcast and all of the work that you do.
That's part of it.
We got to be leading lives and leadership lives of authenticity.
Modeling.
Yeah,
I've got a model. Doug, this is great stuff. I do want to point people to the website again, impactnonprofit.com. Please get, this might be again one of my top recommended books moving forward. It's called Built for Impact: How Successful Nonprofits Lead, Execute, and Scale What Matters Most. This is an episode to go back and listen to again with either a notepad or a computer, or go on the site, get one of the assessment sheets, start scoring and say, hey, where might I start? Until then, lead on.